Right. So we discussed last. Where did we finish?
From where you realize. Okay. So we have done we have completed the validity and reliability. That's what we did. And we even know how to now create the weight. Right? We know how to create the weight, but that's weight. So acceptance is over, reliability is over. Okay. Here we are. Acceptance and reliability. Right. Any questions that you have? Reliability and acceptance. Hope it's clear. So it's clear. Is it? Okay. Please.
No,
Okay, so I'm going to put some materials to make number 9.
I can put away.
Students, please navigate to week number 9. Please navigate to week number 9 and we shall do test of difference. We shall do your test of difference. Please navigate to week number 9. You can refresh if you are not done so. And I advise you to sit with people who have computers. So please sit with people who have computers so you'll be able to see. Okay. So in week number 9, there are several information that's there. There you can see at the end of week number 9, just above week number 10, there's a PowerPoint file, says status is file, details and one diagram. Please download and open it. Details and one diagram. Please download it and open it. And we are going to use that in fact today. Session 5. Your notebooks, take down this topic. The notebooks you have either type, open your notebooks and take down this topic. Test of difference. It's not going on other here. Test of difference. We shall take. The best practice is to take down things, isn't it? Because we cannot bring everything. Best thing is to take down notes. So please take down test of difference. And we shall discuss several types of test of differences. Okay, what are these tests of difference? So these tests of differences will set the differences. Now, if you want to compare two groups, in terms of a certain characteristic, and use test of difference. Let's say for example, here we have two, in terms of gender, we have two types of students. In terms of gender, one males and females, male students and female students are there. Now, of course, we know biologically what is. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in knowing whether in terms of a skill or in terms of certain other characteristic, whether you are different or not. Let's say for an example, at the end of the semester, you are going to have an exam. That's for sure. Certain things are for sure, like exams and the sunrise. Sunrising, is it sure? Yes, almost. Likewise, at the sun rises next day, there will be an exam for you at the 50th. Right? And that's going to be a 3-hour comprehensive exam, isn't it? Just remind you that you have to exam. At that exam, you are going to have questions indeed. But that's why we call it an exam. And you'll be awarded marks, right? So package-based data analytics, you will be given marks. And what I want to say is whether males and female students, male students and female students are different in terms of package-based data analytics marks, right? But whether male students and female students are different in terms of marks for package-based data. Whether male students and female students are different in terms of life satisfaction. Whether male students and female students are different in terms of stress. So likewise, I will take a characteristic and I will see whether these two groups are different from each other. That's what we do in t-test. That's what we do in different differential analysis. Test of limits. Right? If you are going to compare two groups like males and females, right? Males and females, if you are going to compare two groups, then you could use a test called t-test, a category of test called t-test. On the other hand, in this world, are there only two groups? No, we have more than two group situations. Districts in Sri Lanka, how many districts are there? Only two? Colombo and something. No, we have more than two districts. Last count indicated 25 districts are there. So if you want to compare, right, among those 25, then there is another set of tests that are called one-way. So for your viewing pleasure, I have indicated that earlier. Difference between two groups, you can see, you can perform the first bullet point is what? Difference between two groups, those are called t-tests. Comparing two groups, males, females. Yeah, maybe equal and non-equal. I would like to say whether the interns are internship satisfaction of you between audit and non-audit firms. There's a first letter. Right. Two groups, audit and non-audit. Right. Likewise, if I want to compare two groups, what's the test that I would use? T-test. And there are three kinds of t-tests. What are three kinds of t-tests? One is listed as what? The independent sample. You can see that's the first one, that's listed under what? The t-test. Then we have paired sample. You can see that's the second one. The third one is what? One sample. So those are the three kinds of t-tests that we are doing. Right? These are the three kinds of t-tests that we are going to do. So what are we doing on the t-test? We are comparing two things. In the example, males and females. In terms of package-based data analytics average marks, whether the males and females are different. Let's say, for an example, the female students got for the package-based data analytics, let's say 80.5 on average. Let's say there are 50 in your batch who are females. You got 50, let's say 80.5 as the average. Female category. Then male students, let's say there are 30 male students, and they got, let's say, 75.5 on average. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare that 80.5 and 75.5 and see whether there is significant difference between male and female. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do under t-test. Right? Is it t-testing? T-testing, we are comparing two groups. Right? Two things like females have not. I think we have two groups that we wish to compare. Audit trainees and non-audit trainees. Right? Two things. Then, when it comes to more than two groups, you are going to use what? One way and one time. That's the second category, as you can see. The second bullet point, when you have more than two categories, you are going to compare, you are going to use one way and. And if you want more precise one-to-one group comparisons, you can even use post-hoc analysis. Don't worry about these things. We are going to apply these things and understand by practical examples. We are going to use practical examples and we are going to see how to use the t-test and how to analyze that and how to see whether there are critical differences or not. So today's stay put and listen very carefully. Today we are going to discuss a great deal of information. A great deal of information about it. So therefore, your concentration is very much required. And please, people who have computers, there's advice, but it's up to you. I can show you the path. Taking that path or not is your response. Because you are going to enter the consequence at the end. Right? Not me. I have done all my exams. There's one more exam. That's it, my creator something. But that's the only exam that I'm going to face. I have done all my exams, but now you have your exams, right? End of the semester, you have your exams. So you have to get ready. For that, just 2 weeks before the exam wouldn't be enough. 14 days is not going to be enough at all. How many subjects do you have? 3 subjects. This itself amounts to about 5 subjects. Equal units. Unless you practice now. And it takes a huge amount of time to study it properly. So why not to start now? The class is then. Why do we need to be further? We postpone things unnecessarily. I would just try to grasp it if you don't understand. And because that's why we do it hands-on. That's why we do it. I'm giving you the chance to practice that, then you can practice it and apply it. So take it serious. Don't waste time. Don't postpone. Some people here think that without coming to the lectures, they could attend it. I doubt that. My experience and past data science, past data indicates that it's otherwise. They are lackluster performance and then we are going to have class exercises. Who knows today we have group exercise? I don't. Okay, suddenly it is who knows? So therefore get ready. Get ready and be ready. That's all. Be ready for the things that are good. Okay. Right. Okay. Again to summarize what we discussed. Here today we are going to discuss what? Test of difference. Test of difference. We are going to see the difference between two groups and more than two. I told you if you are going to see the difference between two groups, what's the analysis that you perform? Sequence. Then I told you that there are how many kinds of features? How many kinds? 3 kinds. What are 3 kinds? Independent sample treated, paired sample, or some people call it even the dependent sample treated and the one sample treated. So 3 kinds. Independent sample treated, paired sample treated, or the dependent sample treated. Then we have the one sample treated. With examples, let's study it. You will understand. And always you will see that you will be following 4 steps. 4 steps always. This is steps you will see there are 4 steps that you have to follow in all these analyses. Right? So altogether, how many analyses are there? There are 6 or even more. Addition close. And we discuss all these 3 practical examples and even the extra examples as well. So we are going to consume this entire 4 hours for this purpose. 4 hours in hours already. At least this amount is clear at least by 8 days. So I thought to start. Good. Right. So is that come? Anytime. Welcome anytime. So let's start with the independent sample data. Independent sample data. Okay, shall we start? Independent sample data. So what it does is it compares 2 independent groups. Males, females. Are those 2 categories independent? Can there be someone in between? This has to be 2 independent groups. Now, if I draw that in a Venn diagram, like this. And there be in case of art. Technically, you can't be both. Like 2 independent. There's no any intersection. There cannot be someone informed. Right? 2 separate groups. Independent. So in this case, we are going to perform what? Independent. Married, unmarried. Can there be someone in between? People might have forgotten whether they are married or not. That's a different story. Unless the person is different person. But that's two groups. Right? Having kids or no kids? Can you have something in between? No idea. What are you going to get now? Yes. Right. So you got the point, right? So there is right two independent groups. And what you are trying to do is you are trying to see whether these two groups are linked. Right. Let's take an example. Right. Let's take an example. So after you took that topic, test of references, why not to take down independent sample details? Number one, we said independent sample details. Independent sample details, number one. Number one, independent sample details. Independent sample details. And let's see what we have to do. Independent sample details. Two independent groups, you are comparing to equate. Let's take an example. Read this example. Right? What it says is, suppose we study the effect of employee training on employee mistakes. You train the employees to minimize their mistakes. Two groups of employees who perform similar activities with the same manufacturing plant are selected, and one group is given training. You take two groups. One group is given training, and we call them the experiment group or the treatment group. Right? That's the name that you do. Treatment or experiment. And then you select another group, right? And you call them the control group. Right? You take the control group. And then what you do is you give the training to the experiment group on. And that's, let's say for an example. Let's take this example. Let's say I'm the manager of a train of a big factory. In this factory, there are 2,000 employees. Let's say there are how many employees? There are 2,000 employees. Right. Now, there's a consultant who has come and offered his services to train these 2,000 employees. And he's going to charge 2 million rupees for it. 2 million is a big amount, isn't it? 2 million rupees, is it a big amount or not? Yes, it's a big amount. So now, but you don't know whether the consultant's training is going to be effective or not, right? Unless you see this. So what you can do? Train over 2,000 and see if it's effective or not, isn't it? Over there is effective. If it is not effective, what will happen? You will have wasted all 2 million after that. If I were you, I would do a different job, a different way. I do a sample test. I will train 2,000 employees. What I will do is, I will take a sample. So what I will do is, I will out of these 2,000, I will take 2 samples. Okay, 2 samples. Right? I'll take 9 employees here. And then I'll take about 10 employees. You don't need to have exactly the same. And 10 employees and 10 employees. And I call these 2 groups. I call this group the experiment group. Experiment. So this one, I call these groups control. I will take only 9 employees and 10 employees, right? I'm not going to take entire thing also, as some people suggested. 9 employees. There are 9 and here. Then I give two labels to these two groups. What are the two labels? The experiment group and or the treatment group or the control. Just two labels. And then I am going to give the training only to the experiment. Part of the let's say this is the training. I give the training. I give the training. Then this is not training. To act it down. Training not training not. For the training group, you give the training. For the no training group, you don't give the training. Right? Training, no training. So you train only the experiment or the treatment. Treatment is anything. Training is anything. That's why we call the treatment group. So that's training of the no training group is not your training. Nine employees and training. Then after giving this training only to the treatment group or the experiment group and having the control group only as a control, then after that you check the number of mistakes they are committing. It was a task that errors commit करना. मौका देगा employer का देदार की ना ये देदार है आपको groups देगा खाता है. एक group करेंगे यहाँ पर experiment group. एक दिन प्लान आपको कर treatment group. और group का खाता है ना मौका देगा नहीं ना control group. हम training के देने का मतलब experiment group पे क्या है treatment group पे कितना है training है. Training में देने का कितना पावर. अरे पहले ये मतलब पावर ना एक अच्छे mistake को इतना कमिट करना वाले के लिए group पे गए. Then after that you check how much mistake, how many mistakes they commit. And that's recorded in this case. That's recorded in this table. Right, you can see here the 9 employees have committed. The first employee has committed 12 mistakes, 14 mistakes, 10 mistakes, 8 mistakes, 16 mistakes, 5, 3, 9, 11. Likewise, these are the number of mistakes that they have committed. Then the control group who were not given in training has committed. There are 10 employees. That number is make it exactly someone in means hey, because we are going to compare the averages. We are trying to compare the average. So you don't even have the exact equal amount 10% taken. You are going to be comparing the average number of mistakes. And that's what you're doing. Right. Now we need to see whether these two groups are different in terms of number of mistakes. In case, if we see there's a significant reduction in the experiment group who are given the training, what can you tell about the training? Make a balloon pass, make a check balloon pass, experiment group and training in a group number of errors could have on and group picture, mobile training and education. Very effective. Right? That's what we are doing. In case it's effective, then what can we do? We can train, right? The other 1,991. This is what dying. It does not say. Effective. These are the rocket science. These are easy things. Now, to test this, whether there is significant difference between these two groups, what you do is you perform a test called the independence sample. Why is independence sample? Are these two independent groups? Is there a person who is in a common membership who has the training as well as no training? Come on, sir. එක මාසයක් පුද්ගලයෙක් ඉන්න පුළුවන් ට්‍රේන් වෙච්ච සහ ට්‍රේන් වෙච්ච. එන්නේ වෙන්නේ ඉතින් ඒක සිමිනියක් ගන්න අර ඉන්නවා ස්පර්. dual personality syndrome කියලා එකක් තියෙනවා. උදේට ගෙවිය ආන්සර් දාන්න. ඒක අපිට යාළුවෙක් ප්‍රොෆෙසර් කෙනෙක් කියනවා. තවල් පුද්ගල රැඳෙනින් එක්ක බලන්න. දැන් එහෙම කට්ටිය නෑ නේද? Right? So these are two independent. So in that case, what the test that you are going to perform? The independent task. So let's see how to perform that step by step. Always, as I told you, there will be 4 steps that you have to perform. Let's see what are the 4 steps. These are the 4 steps. Here, step number 1. Establish the null hypothesis. Step number 1. Establish the null hypothesis. Somewhere we null hypothesis, null hypothesis here. ඉතින් මෙහෙමයි පොළොව හතේ නෝනලා ඉන්න පල්ල තියාගෙන දෙනවා බිස්කට්. හරි ගිහලා මොකද දෙන්නේ කියලා? අපි කිව්ව බිස්කට් දෙනවා කියලා දිනා බිස්කට්. ඉතින් සමහර නෝල් hypothesis කියලා කියන්නේ. ප්‍රොෆෙසර්ස් කරන්නේ මොකද කියලා ලාල් මට නම් ඉතින් අල්ලා establish the null hypothesis. Null hypothesis means what? What's a hypothesis? Now, our research method report says, what are the hypothesis? What's a hypothesis? A testable assumption. An assumption that could be tested. That's a null hypothesis. That's a hypothesis. What's a null hypothesis? Null means what? Well, again, negative. Low ligand null can null and void. That means what? No. You say something no, so null. So null hypothesis means there is no difference. Null hypothesis there is no difference. As a scientist, you should not take sides. As a scientist, you should say that there is no impact, no difference. No difference between what? The trained group and the untrained group. The experiment group and the control group, there is no difference in terms of mistakes. In terms of number of mistakes, there is no difference between the trained and the untrained group. That's what you say. No difference. So I have given that. There is no statistically significant difference. There is no statistically significant difference between the trained group, with the experimental group, and the untrained group, the control group, in terms of what? Mistakes. In terms of mistakes, there is no difference. That's what it is. In terms of average number of mistakes, there is no difference between these two. The groups are there, in fact, mistakes are not. Average number of mistakes are not there. So that's what your null hypothesis is. No difference. Then step number 2. Step number 2. What's step number 2? Establish the decision criteria. Look at the step number 2. Establish the decision criteria. If the sig value or the p value, which is also known as the probability value, අපි දැනටවත් ඒක කතා කරා. දැන් කීපේ sig value එක significance value එක හරි p value එක probability value එක හරි ඒක තමයි කියන්නේ. Did we discuss about the significance value, the sig value or the p value? Oh, and they did කතා කරා. Where did we discuss that? Well, Islam Mangala experience. When I told you correlation. When I told you correlation analysis, I told you the relationship, the difference in the relationship between significance and confidence levels. Same thing. If the sig value or the significance value or the probability value, right? If this value is less than 0.05, if this value is less than 0.05, always reject the null hypothesis. That's the decision criteria that will not change for you. Right? If the sig value or the probability value, p value is less than 0.05, reject the null hypothesis. Right? Reject the null hypothesis. Keep that very well in mind. Take a video of the part reject. Reject Then come an interesting point again. Then step number 3. Step number 3 is the interesting point. Now using data, calculate the sequence for the period. Many steps data का बात करो sequence लेकर even लेकर probability value calculate करना ये और करना पूरा हाल लेकर hypothetical check करना है so based on that you can reject or not reject the hypothesis. You never say accept the hypothesis. You will reject or not reject the hypothesis. Oh. Right. So shall we see how to perform an independent sampling? At in state. The main step पे state वाइदा का नौकर करा non sequence calculate करा. Shall we see how to do that? Yes. For that, you need to go to there. Go back to there. And you can see there's a file. Data session file. Employee training without training data file. You can download it. That's on the week number 9, the first part. Data session file, employee training without. A file you download. And open that in Stata. So I open Stata. And now I am going to open that file. I'm going to go my download folder. And what's the best practice? Once you open a file, browse it. Browse and see. What's the command? Browse. Now you can see all 19 employees are there, 9 plus 10. Out of that, there is a grouping variable with training and without training. With training, training, and their mistakes are given here. And then without training, that's also listed in the same column. Can you see that? With training and without training. Right? Two groups mistakes are listed there. The data is intact. That's good. Now what we shall do is, to perform the independent sampling. Under step number what? What step पे क्या करना है? Where which steps are we? Step number 3. Step number 3 is what? What step number 1 again? Establish the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis, what we say, there's no difference. No difference between the trained and untrained groups in terms of what? Number of errors. There's no difference. Step number 2, division criteria. What's the division criteria? If the sig value or the p value is less than 0.05, reject the null hypothesis. This step number 3 is what? Perform the independent sampling. Now we are step number 3. Let's see how to do that. That's step number 3. Let's see how to do that. It's a simple thing. I can scan. First, open the file. Make sure you have opened the correct file. First, open the correct file and go to statistics, summaries, tables, and save. Then classical test of hypothesis. Then details. But yeah, look for what happened now? I heard. the path. For statistic, power is stable and test. The classical test of hypothesis. Don't take a following. Right. Write down these paths. The path again. Statistics, power is stable and test. Classical test of hypothesis. You can go to the first one. Take a following. It's not difficult at all. Come on. In comparison to scale, you compare the not two groups. That then you will get this. They use the type of t test. One sample t test, two sample using group, two sample using variables pair. We need to go for two sample using groups because they are a group. What are those? Train and untrained. Train and untrained. Experiment and control. Same thing. The variable name is what? Errors. And grouping name is errors and the group. Right? Errors and group. Errors and group. Right, that's it. I will press OK. Shall I press OK? Is it okay to press OK? Column. Then you get a nice table. Sir, this is a nice table. What's this? Right. You can see the big this is a nice table like all. So it's not having the column. Good. It is a nice table made in that way. What a nice table. Give it a nice table out. Right. So people have put a nice table. That's noteworthy and there. That be nice table in there. Now please look at this nice table very carefully. Now there is, you can see on top, with training group is there. With training group is there. You can see here. With training group is there. You can see on the top. Okay. How many employees are there? 9 employees are there. The average number of mistakes is 9.77. The average number, the mean value of the mistake is 9.77. Errors ticket you added, right? You took the sum of those errors and you divide it by 9. Then you got 9.77. Right. Then on the other hand, without training, there are 10 employees, it was 15.1. Can you see? Errors without training is 9.77 and without training is 15.1. With training 9.77. Right? Apparently there's a difference, isn't it? 75% 9.77. Without training 15.1 errors on average. Okay, and 15 approximately. Is there a difference? Yes, there's a difference. But the problem is there a significant? There are significant. Take up that. We don't know. There's a difference. Any child could say that there's a difference. 9.77 and 15.1 is different. Any person can tell. But the problem is there a significant difference? That's what we will be doing. To check whether there is a significant difference, for that you perform the equivalence operator. And you can see here, down here, in the middle, you can see on the screen. Here you can see the significant value is given. What's the value? You can see it's 0.0135. 0.0135. Can you see that? So that's what is expected under step number 3. The sequence we call it sequence. The p value. The significant value or the probability value is 0.0135. Right. Let's take it down. That's the answer to step number 3. Right. Step number 3 answer equal to 0.0135. 0.0135. This is the answer you got for step number 3. Because step number 3 answer. That's the answer you get for step number 2. Right. Now let's go to step number 4. Step number 4 is conclusion. The middle is 0.01. So you have to record it. You can see here, I have recorded. Here, 0.0135. That's the third step. Then step number 4. Then we have done the step number 3. This after done the step number 3, and then we come into the conclusion. Before you look at this conclusion, tell me 0.0135. Is it less than 0.051? Visualization is a kind of path. Visualization is a part of the calculated computer Poli, Eka is the Tunai Paha. 0.0135 is 1.35%. 5% is our cutoff, right? 0.05. Is 1.35 less than 5%? Yes. The doubt there get you. So you can see it is less than 0.05. 0.135 is indeed less than 0.05. So in that case, what are going to do you done under the decision criteria? Decision criteria step number 2. What's the step number 2 decision criteria? If the 6 value of the p value is less than 0.05, what? Reject. So what are you going to do? Reject. So that's what I written here. I given here not rejecting the null hypothesis. Why? Because the calculated estimated peak value is 0.0135. But the null hypothesis reject current over the calculated peak value, p value, probability value, in the effect by in the under decision criteria. Decision criteria reject. Under decision criteria, we reject. So the 0.0135 is less than 0.05, so we reject the null hypothesis. So we reject that there is no difference. After reject no difference है अपने here. ठीक है अंकल? What's that? Do you have a difference? Yes. We say that there is no difference. We reject. We reject that there is no difference. That means what? There's a difference. Right? Do you accept? We reject. There is no difference. To no, reject something negative. No difference. Again something negative. That means yes. There's a difference. The mom may have it. All answer, Lamana Theatre, Veteran, only anything in there. Hello? Only nothing in there. What did you? I will come. Take English. I wouldn't say I wouldn't come. I would not say I would not come. Two no's is what? Yes. Linguistics. Here the same thing. You reject that there is no difference. When it's like reject them. You can one. When it's up here. But there's a difference. So in that case, your conclusion is what? The trained sample has significantly done lesser mistakes than the untrained sample. There's significant difference. You reject that there is no difference and you conclude that there is significant difference between the trained sample and the untrained sample in terms of mistake. Just on average mistakes, you say there is a significant difference. That's what you can say. Rejecting the null hypothesis, the results indicate that there is a statistically significant difference between the mean mistake value between the trained and untrained group. So what can you say? What can I say? Is the training program successful in reducing number of mistakes? Yes, just typical reduce mistakes. So by looking at this sample, you could say what? The training program is successful. And what's your recommendation for it? Train all the employees except this 9. These are already trained. Train the employees. The rest of the employees, 1,991 employees, going to be trained there because this is a successful training program. Right? Okay, that's it. So these are the steps of the independent sample detection. Again, let me tell you. Again, let me summarize for you. This is very clear. Okay. We have now how many employees altogether? 2,000 employees. And a consultant has come and trying to train this employee. But the cost is very high, 2 million. So we cannot train all and then later on, if it is not effective, you will have wasted your money. So what you are going to do is you are going to do a sample test. For that, you take 2 groups, the trained group and the untrained group. You also call them what? Experiment group as well as the control, or the treatment group as well as the control group, right? Then we put 9 employees, maybe 9 employees into the training group and 10 employees to the control group, untrained group. That's what we did initially. Then what did we do? Then we followed 4 steps. What are the 4 steps? Step number 1, establish the null hypothesis. What's the null hypothesis? The null hypothesis indicates that there is no difference, no difference between the trained group and the untrained group in terms of the average mistakes. There's no significant difference between the trained and untrained group in terms of the average mistakes they commit. There's no difference. That's what we established under the null hypothesis. Average number of mistakes is on the trained group and untrained group. There's no significant. Well, that's step number 1. Then step number 2. What's step number 2? What's step number 2? Decision criteria. Decision criteria. What's the decision criteria? If the sig value, if the p value, probability are sig value, in those of video reject karna. Reject karna. After reject karna, I can correlation and repetition analysis. I think there's some video part order, other than December. We discuss. We have it more convenient. Right. This step number 3. What's step number 3? Using data, perform the independent sample test and estimate, calculate what? The sequence. Data independent sample test. And we don't calculate dependent sample. It is a annual sig value here. What's the sig value that you got? 0.0135. Only it was sitting on solution area is what kind of we got the signal and we compare that with the 0.05 value. Vision criteria step 1 2 criteria then compare you can compare the estimated value with that part vision criteria. So we understood 0.0135 is less than 0.05 the cutoff, and so we reject the number. We reject that there is no difference. I will say no difference again. We can reject it. We can get what? Again, in auditing, you should have studied, but reviewing it. Reviewing it means to express the opinion as well. Negative, it's not negative opinion. Negative opinion, negative expression. Nothing has come to our attention that indicates there's something wrong in the internal control system. That means what? Wrong. But since nothing has come to our attention, there's something is wrong. Two negatives, double negatives is there nothing wrong. But since you did less testing than an audit, you provide what? A negative expression. But you get assurance that there is something wrong, but not at the same way. Right? Here also we do the same. Just remember, we are doing based on samples. Samples per million. So then you come to the conclusion that you reject the null hypothesis. You reject that there is no difference clinically. So that means what? There's a difference. So 9.77 is significantly different from 15.1 errors. Based on that, your final conclusion is what? The training program is effective. Significantly, right? 9.77 is significantly lesser than 15.1. That's your final conclusion. Is it proper, sir? No. Simple logic. Simple. But now a little bit I'm going to teach you an important thing. You have to listen to this very carefully. Someone put a GD ekatare ahanno. Ek ahanno put egalimo ekalawe. Namuth ek ee wela ahanna nathuwa tawa 100 පාරක් නෙවෙයි පොළොට යන්නේ. දැන් ඔන්න ඒවට මොකක්ද කියන්නේ. දැන් කියන්නේ යන්නේ හොඳට සමහරවිට. Please listen to what I'm going to say very carefully. අනිත් ඔක්කොම clear කරලා පැත්තකට තියන්න. දැන් මේක දිහා හොඳට අහන් ඉන්න බලන්න. I'm going to tell you a very important thing. Population thing. මේක එකපාරෙන්ම ගොඩ දාන්න. උත්තර බැලුවොත් ඔකට එන්නේ. So listen to this very carefully. ඔන්නේ කියන්නේ very carefully. A diagram with you. Please look at this diagram. Now let's say there are 1,000 employees and you took two groups. Take the dark people. Dark in the employees, then the dark. Different data. And it's the same population. Same population. Right? Now listen to this very carefully. I'm going to tell this only once. Try to put your full maximum attention. Do the same viewing. Let's say there are only one population and you take two samples out. How many samples you get? Two samples. What are the two samples? S1 and S2. Let's call S1 and the experiment by the control, but just take S1 and S2. Right? But say, okay. And you can see the average number, right, of mistakes is 4.5 and 4.7. The 20 equals average number of errors is 4.5 and 4.7. Right? For an example. there a drastic difference between those two? No. Because it comes from the same population. Example, දෙකක් වුණාට එක වෙන්නේ එක population. එතකොට වෙනසක් තියෙනවා. significant පොඩි වෙනසක් තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඒ වෙනස significant නෙමෙයි. Of course, these are two samples. There can be slight difference, but the difference cannot be significant. Right? Good. Now let's go to the next step. Can you say that? Then I will ask a question. Now let's say there are two populations, X and Y. Two different populations, completely different. Well, it was one population, right? Now there are two entirely extremely different populations. We call it X and Y. Again, you take two samples, S1 and S2, and you see the number of X. S1 is 3.5 and S2 is 4.7. Right? Is it now different? Yes, indeed. 3.5 and 4.7 is quite very different. Why? Because it came from two different populations. Right? Is that clear? Now let's work backward. Now in our example, we got the train sample mean is how much? Errors? Train sample. Train sample mean are 9.7. Then untrained sample 15.1. Right? So can you tell me, are these two samples coming from the same population or two different populations? Significant difference was indicated. In 9.77 15.1 significant difference here, T tested here. Based on this logic that we discussed, are those two samples coming from the same population or significant different populations in terms of scales? Significant difference in terms of skill someone. Camel flow now skill someone, they two different populations. They come from two different skill populations. One skilled, the other one unskilled. Right? Did you get the logic? So if there's a significant difference, that means the samples come from two different populations. Right? Is that clear? Now let's look at the conclusion again. Now read it. Then take it. Read it. What it says. In other words, the employees have not been drawn from the same population. Economic skill population is make a team net. Skills up. So factory floor is skills up, but they get population net. They can be coming from the same factory floor, but in terms of skills, they come from two different populations. Did you get the point? That's what I want. So you have to learn this only once and for. So I think this is one of them. The difference between trained sample mean and the mean of the untrained sample 50 is so different that it is unlikely that these samples come from the same population. Skill population. Then again, skill population. Skill population meaning trained, untrained, significant training program. The training program is effective in reducing mistakes of employees. So there, since there is significant difference, you could say significant reduction in fact, you could say that there is what? There is this training program is effective. Right? Did you understand the population thing? Understand for all you don't understand. What you are doing? The population service. Okay. Now I hope you got the point. Right. Then what exercise here? Right. What exercise karan? So that I get it. Here. The method is that how much we can handle the I man. Exercise karan. Data. Let's do an exercise. Right. Okay. Let's go. Right. Let's do an exercise. Use the same survey session 3 survey 485, and there you will see that there is a statistic called, there is a variable called total life satisfaction, T life sat, which you have had. T, now that indicates the total life satisfaction of employees. Employees like a total life satisfaction. Males or females rather total life satisfaction is are females satisfied in their life than males, or males satisfied than females in their interest of life? What is it? What is that? I don't know. That's what we have to check. To check that, we have to follow how many steps? Oh. Then you get the answer. And then I ask it again by looking at your data example, data analysis. I'll ask you whether females are satisfied than males or vice versa. This. Now download that file and do that. And tell me whether males are satisfied than females or females satisfied than males in the life. Yeah, education committee. Yeah. When you know this one, why not this? Just joking. There was, in fact, maybe a bylaw session that you were on the bylaw, was it created? What is it? What is it? There, bylaw everyone. Exploration. Okay, charge the counter. Oh, it's good. That's entertainment, isn't it? Yeah, accounting is actually download can survey for you. Week 2 week 2 one mega use data section 2, 3, 4 survey for you. Please download this file. That's a state of file. Please download it and open. The link number 2. Open that file and browse it. You can see there's gender variant. See? Take a process will give that kind of 3 lakhs at kilometer. Total life satisfaction rate. 3 lakhs. Now, what you are required to do is see whether total life satisfaction, average total life satisfaction is different in male, females, male employees and female employees. This is it. Follow the life satisfaction rate. Follow the post names. So, the all I can make among 3 types. Make a pregnant from after the Lanka. Yeah, is there a content to number? Let's say who is going to be the Vasna. Let's have random number power. Again, I can see at another random number. Oh. Equalize that and take the gender as the grouping variable. Gender as the grouping variable. All of the cover the was now and there was now. Yeah. That is the null cycle. What null cycle? There is no significant difference between male and female employees in terms of total life. Average total life cycle. Somebody males or females are the difference. Yeah, matter. No. Sorry. Yeah, I will never. 26. Okay. You tell us what's the step number 2? That's what we're saying. Establish what's the decision criteria? If the significance value or the probability value is less than 0.05, do what? Do what? Reject. That's step number 2. What is step number 3? Can I add a here? Number 6. Honest. No, I know. What was step number 3? Step number 3 is what? Step number 3 to propose the event sample. You see steps. Shall we do that? Let's do that. Statistics. Summaries. Then what? Classical test of fire. Am I correct? Then two samples. He left set and grouping variable is gen. Gen is the grouping variable. He left set is the variable and you press OK. Then you get this output. You can see males is under 85 males. The average life satisfaction is 21.6 Likert scale. Females 22.90. So you can see slightly females are high in satisfaction. But this is significant. This is significant. What is your value? 0.06. 0.06. Step number 3. Then step number 4. What's step number 4? Conclusion. So you compare this value with 0.05. And if less than 0.05, you reject the null hypothesis. Now my question to you is, can you reject the null hypothesis? Can you reject the null hypothesis? You can't. Because 0.06 is it's about 0.05. That case, you cannot reject the null hypothesis. You cannot reject the null. You cannot reject that there is no difference. That means what? There's no difference. One thing. There's no difference. So the answer that I asked you, the question that I asked at the beginning, are male and female employees, male employees and female employees are different in terms of their life satisfaction? Are they different? No. They are. Then in terms of life satisfaction, do they come from the same population or two different populations? Very good. They come from the same population. Why there is no significant difference? A sample means different land. They can live a population. They come from the same population. Since there is no significant difference. Slight difference is there, but it doesn't mean it's not significant. That means it comes from the same population. That's the final. Well, is it hard? No. Just look at the seed value and interpret that. That's all. How many steps are there? 4 steps. 4 steps. So after this, we'll now get a quick break. Right? So you visualize analysis. So after this, we'll discuss about a paired sampling. Right? A paired sampling test. So we shall meet now it's almost today at 10:20. Hey, today. Very specific.
ahora திருப்பி வந்து செக் பண்ணிட்டு இன்னும் அந்த 4 பேருக்கு ஒர்க் கிடைச்சா presentation. Sunday night. నేను మీతో ఉంటారా డిసైడ్ అయిపోయినారు taxation.
Last final result then team amount. Now slide
content போடல புது ஃபீச்சர் தான் கண்டென்ட் இல்ல அதே தூக்கி வீடியோ காட்சி போட்டு போட்டேன் Possible.
PPT. Section of 4.
One or two, three, three, Bati. Oh, right.
Copy paste करने full table
ப்ளூ கலர் வரும்போது எனக்கு தெரியும் சர்டிபிகேட்ல தான் வருது ப்ளூ டாபிக் ப்ளூ கலர் வரும்போது சர்டிபிகேட் தெரியல டாபிக்னா ப்ளூல தான் வரும் அது அப்போ வந்து தெரியும் Reporters are design and report white on the table appear and typical table example recognition criteria. 8 நிமிஷம் தான் பண்ணேன். நீங்க 8 நிமிஷம் தான் பண்ணேன். கொஸ்டின் அண்ட் ஆன்சர்ஸ் அதை விட எப்படி உங்களுக்கு ஒரு கேள்வியே கேட்க எப்படி கேட்டாங்க சஜஷன்ஸ் என்ன சொன்னாங்க? வயசு வாங்கிட்டு கையை எப்படி வச்சுட்டு இதுக்கப்புறம் பாத்துக்கிறேன். இந்த வெயிட் டைம்ல கொஞ்சம் செய்வோம். இந்த ரிப்போர்ட் எப்படி இருந்துச்சு? நான் முக்கியமா பிக்சர்ஸ் எல்லாம் எடுத்து போறேன். அதுக்கப்புறம்
நல்லா இருந்துச்சு. நான் பார்த்தேன். நீங்க அந்த ஒவ்வொரு செக்டர் இது டிவிஷன்
ஸ்டார்டிங் செய்யும்போது எனக்கு வந்து ஆர்வம் நான் கொட்டை எடுத்து போட்டு செஞ்சேன். இந்த டேபிள் கண்டென்ட் அப்டேட் பண்ணதுக்கு நான் பட்ட பாடு இருக்கு.
அதுக்கு ஒரு மெத்தட் இருக்குதானே?
ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எனக்கு புரியல. அதுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்து அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் தெரிஞ்சிச்சு. நானே இது டேபிள் கண்டென்ட் பண்ணணும்னா அது பேஸ் இது ஒன்று செட்டிங்ஸ் பண்ணலன்னு சொல்லிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் நான் பண்ணிட்டு ஒரு டாபிக்குக்கும் போய் ஒரு இது ஹெட்டிங் மாதிரி கொடுத்தேன். அதுக்கப்புறம் இதுக்கும் அப்ப நான் அந்த டேபிள் ஃபுல்லா சர்டிபிகேட் போட்டு இந்த டேபிள் தான் என்ன ஆனா அது செஞ்சதுக்கு ஒர்த்தானா எனக்கு தான் தெரியும். ரிப்பீட் ஆயிடுச்சு. சன்ஷைன் ஹோல்டிங் ரிப்பீட் ஆயிடுச்சு. மொபைல் கவுண்ட் ஆகுது. டேபிள் ரிலீவ் பண்ணிட்டு ரொம்ப கண்டினியூ ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் செக்டர்ல ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் சைடு போட்டுருக்காங்க. எனக்கு ஒரு வழி தெரியும். இந்த எக்ஸாம்பிள் தான் போட்டிருக்காங்க. ஹாஸ்பிட்டல்ல எப்படி
கம்பேர் பண்ண சொல்லிருக்கீங்க.
மார்க்ஸ் வருமானு எனக்கு தெரியாது. நாளைக்கு செய்யறதுலதான் இருக்கு. நீங்க டாபிக் வரல.
சொன்ன டைம்
போயிட்டு ஓடி
தனியா
தெரிஞ்ச சுபாய்க்கு போடுவாங்க. அதே சுபாய்க்கு
சூப்பர்வைசர் மாத்துவாங்க. ரொம்ப நாள் எக்ஸ்டெண்ட் பண்ணலாம். நான் 2 months எக்ஸ்டெண்ட் பண்ணேன். பட் ஸ்டில் ஐ வாஸ் அப்படியே தான் இருந்தேன். எனக்கு எக்ஸ்டெண்ட் அதே கம்மிக்கு ஆனாது.
எனக்கு டேஸ் தான் சரி நான் ஓகே
Okay, shall we start? I think almost all have come back. Right, we'll start. So we have discussed about independent sample test, which we compare two independent groups. Two independent groups we compare. Males, females, trained, untrained, likewise. What we did was we compare two independent groups. Now we shall do the second type of test for the paired sample group. So why don't you take out paired sample dish? Paired sample dish. Paired sample dish. Take it. It's a compare sample dish. Let's look at this example. Now let's say the situation. Please listen, students. Right. Right. We start. Okay. So let's take the situation now. Earlier there were two independent groups. What were the two independent groups? Either males, females, or trained or untrained groups. But now let's take the situation where the same employee, let's say there are 7 employees who have done mathematics and English tests. You can see the same employee number 1 has done a math test as well as the English test. Can you see that? So the first employee has got math test marks how much? 60. Then the English test mark for the same employee is 55. Can you see that? See? Then number 2, you can see math test is 35 and English test results is 20. Right? So it's the same employee who has done it. So what it says is, it's a situation where it's a paired sample. Right? Although there are 2 right scores for mathematics, 2 marks, right set of marks for mathematics and English, it's paired by an employee. Can you see that? Is it 2 independent marks that got by 2 separate employees? No. Same employee has done mathematics as well as English, right? Mathematics and English. So therefore, you can see 60 and 55 is by the same employee. So it's paired. Each mark, English mark and the mathematics marks is paired by an employee. Now what we need to see is, we need to see whether the average marks, English marks is different from average what? Mathematics marks. English marks is different from average mathematics marks. But are these 2 independent groups? Can you see 2 independent groups? No. Same employee has done English and mathematics. So can you do an independent sample test here? No. It's not relevant. Because here now, for an example, if we have males and females, then 2 independent groups are there. Here the same employee has done English as well as mathematics. So there are 2 different groups. No, there are no 2 different groups. The same employee has done 2 different subjects. And what we are going to compare is whether the average marks of English is different from the average marks of mathematics. Right? So each employee has been, each mark that has gone for mathematics and English, you can see here, is paired by an employee. Employee that we go about the English marks, mathematics marks are to we are trying to see whether the average English marks is different from average mathematics marks. But the thing is, these are not 2 independent groups. The same employee has done English as well as mathematics. So what we are trying to say is whether the average English marks is different from average mathematics marks, right? Done by the same employee. So can we perform the independent sample t-test? You can't. Why? Here the reason is the same employee has done both subjects. Earlier it was the life satisfaction of 2 independent groups. Here the same employee has done mathematics and English, and what we are going to compare is the mathematics and English. Whether mathematics average mark is significantly different from English average marks. So the difference is the same employee has done both things, and we are going to compare both things. Is it clear? So that's the difference between the independent sample t-test and the paired sample t-test, right? Okay. Because earlier there were 2 independent groups. Now there are no 2 independent groups. Okay, now for example, we have English part, and mathematics part. This employee has done 25, let's say 25, 30 or something like that. Number 2, 30, 50, 3, 60, 70. Let's say what happens. So we need to compare these 2, English and mathematics. Whether it's significantly different. But the thing is, the same employee has done both. So that's why we call it a paired situation. The marks are paired. The marks are paired by an employee or a student or an organization what? That's called a paired sample sequence, right? එකම කෙනා තමයි subject එක. දැන් ඉස්සර මොකද උනේ? Life satisfaction එක හරියි. නැත්නම් අනිත් පැත්තේ mistakes හරි groups දෙකක බැලුවා. එකම කෙනාගේ කලින් සහ පස්සේ කියලා බැලුවේ. We did not see it. One pair. But here what we did was, here what we are doing is we are taking the same student has done two subjects. So you can see the subjects are paired by a student O and N. So that's why we call a paired sample t-test. Right? So let's see how to perform a paired sample t-test. But again, rest assured, the four steps are as it is. What are the four steps? Establish the null hypothesis. Then what? Establish the decision criteria. Then, using data, do the paired sample t. This step number 4 is what? Conclude. So you see that. So this is the example that we are going to see. These are hypothetical company, Matrix Corporation. In Matrix Corporation, these are what they are trying to do. There are 7 salespeople in Matrix Corporation, and they were given mathematics and English tests. The same employees were given mathematics and English tests, right? Their results are given below. Next slide. Slide you get the results. So let's see in the next slide the results. Mathematics and English results are given 60-55. Likewise, it's given. So the same employee has done the math test as well as the English. So there are 7 employees. Now we need to see whether there is significant difference between average mathematics marks and average English marks. So these are 4 steps. Step number 1, what's that? Establish the null hypothesis. What's the null hypothesis? The hypothesis that says that there is no difference. Right? There is no difference. So how can you tell that? There is no significant difference between average mathematics marks and average English marks of this approach. No significant difference. It is independent sample in the back. It cannot be an independent sample because the same employee has done both tests. Then establish the decision criteria. What's the decision criteria? Again the same thing. What's the same thing? The C value of the P value is less than 0.05. Reject the null hypothesis. Reject the null hypothesis. Always it will be the same. Then step number 3 is what? Using data, perform the paired sample t-test and estimate the sig value. Then step number 4, conclusion. Based on that sig value, decide whether you have to reject the null hypothesis or not. That's it. Right? Understood. So let's now download and open the relevant data. Let's go to data and open the relevant data. The second part. Data session 5, employee mathematics English file. Please open that file. Download that file and open it. I could go to data and I could open that file. Employee mathematics and English file. And once you open, what you have to do, check the file and go to browse. Right, now you can see the data structure is different. So earlier the errors were listed in one column. Apakati, sir, errors are listed in a column. Now it's not the case. You can see the same employees are there. Math marks is given here, English marks is given. Can you see the difference in the data structure? Data structure is difference in the it's in two columns. The data is in two columns. The data is in two columns, and we need to see whether it's in different column. Can you see that? Okay. Now to check this, we need to perform what? A paired sample. Which is also known as a dependent sample test. Dependent sample test. Right, we'll see how to do that. In the same path. How can you do that? So let me show you. Same path. You go to statistics, summary, table and test, classical test of hypothesis, same path. Huh? Then go to t-test, mean comparison. T-test, mean comparison. Almost the same path. Almost the same path. T-test, mean comparison. Two samples using groups. No, we have to govern pairs. Now select pairs. Not two samples using groups. You have to select pair. Now the difference is there. Please select pair. Please select pair. Please select pair. And you can see here, the first variable is math. The second variable is English. Then select the variable. That's all. Math and English. Math and English. Math and English. Math and English. That's it. We have mathematics marks and English marks. No issue. And press OK. Here you get a quite similar table, but it's not similar. You can see mathematics is 54.85 marks on average. The 7 employees have received 52.85 on average. Then English marks 45. The 7 employees have received 45 marks. Is there a difference? Yes. 42.85 is different from 45. Indeed. But the problem is there a significant difference? How significant? Is there a significant? To see that, you are going to look at this value, the p value. The significant value, the probability value is what? 0.01. The calculated estimated probability value is 0.01. My question to you is now, is this 0.01 less than 0.05? Is less than 0.05? Yes, indeed, it is. It is less than 0.05. Less than 0.05. Right? So you can take down under step number 3, this is the value you have to take down. 0.01. That's under step number 3. Step number 3 you can see here. You can see I have taken it down 0.0105. (0.0105). Right. Then based on that, now we can come into the conclusion. What's the conclusion? Yes, we reject the Lanka. We reject that there is no difference, no significant difference. We reject it. That means what? There is a difference. So we reject the null hypothesis that the mathematics results and English results come from the same population. No, they cannot come from the same population. In terms of scales, these employees come from two populations, the same person, but in terms of scales, they are coming from two different populations. Mathematics and English are significantly different. Right? Because we reject the null hypothesis. The difference between mathematics results 52.86 and mean of the English results 45 is so different, it is unlikely they come from the same population. If there is a significant difference, that shows that they come from two different skill populations. Their skills are different, that's what it says. The employees have scored statistically significant lesser in English than mathematics. So they have performed comparatively very poor in what? English compared to that. But being a salesman, you have to have both knowledge in English as well as mathematics. 45 and 52.86. So again, you follow 4 steps. What are the 4 steps? Step number 1. What's step number 1? Step number 1 is what? Step is the null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is an assumption you make at the beginning. What you say is there is no significant difference between average mathematics marks and average English marks for these employees. Then step number 2, decision criteria. What's the decision criteria? If the sig value or the p value, significance value is less than 0.05, reject the null hypothesis. Then step number 3. What's step number 3? First step number 3. Using data, perform the paired sample t-test and estimate the sig value. The sig value is what? 0.0105. Then step number 5. Step number 4, which is the conclusion. What's the conclusion? Conclusion says, since the estimated sig value, calculated sig value 0.105 or 0.0105 is less than 0.05, you reject that. You reject the null hypothesis. That there is no difference. There is a difference. So you could say there is a significant difference between these two results. Right? Mathematics and English results. Whether it's average mathematics mark and average English mark, there is significant difference. Right? Is that clear? Simple. So in terms of skills, they come from two different populations. In terms of skills, they come from two different populations. Skills are one thing, population they come both their skills first. English skills and mathematics. Again, we apply the 4 steps. Then let's go to the next one. Then let's go to the one sample t-test. That's a paired sample t-test. And let's go to the one sample t-test. Please take down one sample t-test. The third type of t-test. The third type of t-test. The third type of t-test. One sample t-test. Let's say you are going for internship for a bulk manufacturing company. Hello, it's from Marianne. Bulk tube light. Tube light has an internship. At the audit firm, we are not there. Bulk, we are not. Tube light has your business, where you are going for internship, produce 2000 bulbs. Bulbs की आप निष्पादन करा दे दाओ 5 से ला 5 से गाना की तरफ bulb दे दाओ खाली. Now this particular bulb should last 1000 hours. Let's say the standard is 1000 hours of PM mode. This bulb should last for 1000 hours. If it is less than 1000 hours, then that's substandard. Keep what to call substandard again, quality again. 1000 bulbs. Now you want to see whether these bulbs will last for 1000 hours. Because if not, quality is not there. So what can you do? Well, you can light the 2000 bulbs and see that, right? Bulb without possible, but no, let's look at the well, AI can world place. If you are going to light all 2000 bulbs, what are you going to say? If I were you, I will do a different. I'll take a sample and I will light those bulbs and do one sample. Right? The customs they bring different items, containers. They bring, like let's say for an example, fish, salmon. Salmon tins, maybe 500,000 salmon tins, 1 million salmon tins. They import from different countries. Then in customs as well as in quality control, they check whether it's fit for human consumption. So let's say in one consignment, there were 5 million salmon tins. Are they going to all check that? No. What they will do is, same thing that I'm going to teach. They are going to take a sample and check. And then postulate that to the population. Project that to the population. In auditing, I did use study projection of errors. Did you? No, you did not study it. Then, auditing, so I'm going to teach you, right? So here, what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to light the entire 2000 bulbs. So after that, I can sell anything. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take 10 bulbs and light it. I'm going to have how many bulbs? 10 bulbs on. And you can see in this column, the lifetime is indicated for the 10 bulbs. Then following bulb will how many hours the first bulb was there? It was there for 800 hours. Second bulb, 750, likewise it's there. 10 bulbs. Then I'm going to calculate the average of this time that it lasted. These bulbs last. Let's say for an example, say I have calculated that already, I have the statistic. Let's say the average lifetime of these 10 bulbs of the sample is 867 hours. I calculate. You don't need. And currently the answer is so they know 867 hours. Now our test is this. Whether this 867 hours is significantly different from 1000 hours. If it is significantly different, right, then what's our conclusion? These 10 bulbs cannot come from a population where the average burning time is what? 1000 hours. Right? That's the logic that we are going to use. Don't worry if you did not understand that. We'll do it then. Again, follow how many steps? 4 steps. Right. Write down one sample t-test and write down the first step. What's the first step? Establish the null hypothesis. Establish the null hypothesis. What's the null hypothesis? There is no difference. There is no significant difference between the average burning time of sample and the population burning time of 1000 hours. Here. There is no difference between there is no statistical significant difference between what? The burning time of the sample pulse and 1000 hours, which is the expected population. 1000 expected population. Sample that's what we don't know. We are going to test. You have to test whether these 1,000 hours is equivalent from how, right? Whether this sample mean 800, you will understand that 800, whether it's equivalent from 1,000 hours. That's the expected population mean, that's a standard. Then establish the decision criteria. What's the decision criteria? Always say. What's the decision criteria? If the sig value or the p value is less than 0.05, reject it. Reject the null. Reject the null method. How will this ever null hypothesis, right? If you value is less than 0.05, not reject current null method. This is step number 3. What's step number 3? Using data, perform what? The one sample sequence. And estimate the sig value, the probability value. Right? And then come to the conclusion. It was the conclusion. Those are the 4. Right. Is it clear? So first we said that there's no difference. No difference between the sample mean and the expected population mean of 1,000. Mail bulk average burning time again. Population again expected 1,000 hours. We expect that this population to have at least 1,000 hours of burning time. Right? That's the null hypothesis. There's no difference. Step number 2, decision criteria. If the significant value of the probability value is less than 0.05, reject the null hypothesis. Step number 3. Step number 3, using data, perform one sample t-test and compute the sig value or the p value. Right? Shall we do it? We do. For that, let's download the particular file. Light bulb negative template okay. Light bulb. Okay. Right, we downloaded it and please open that file. Right. And drop that file. This, the lifetime of these 10 sample of parts are listed. Without an issue. Okay, close it. And now let's perform the one sample t-test. Or do that. Same procedure. Same path, but then you have to choose one sample t-test. You go to statistics, summaries, tables, and cases. Then classical test of hypothesis and go to t-test. In comparison. Because you are comparing the sample mean and the benchmark of 1,000. Better value is 1,000 hours. Then you can see here one sample t-test is here. One sample t-test. You can see one sample t-test. There, variable name is life. Hypothetical name. What's the hypothetical name? That's the population mean. We expect 1,000 at least the burning time. So please choose 1,000. Please choose 1000. Right. That's it. So, it's okay if I press on. Okay. Right. Mean value of these 10 bulbs is 867. I calculated already just what I told. So what answer they have already under the mean. Already I computed that. So it's 867 hours. Then you can see the p value, significance value is 0.0019. Is 0.0019 less than 0.05? Yes, indeed. So what are you going to do to your null hypothesis? Null hypothesis, reject it. Because what addition criteria less than 0.05, reject it. So you take down this value. Zero point zero zero one nine. And then you come into the conclusion. What's your conclusion? You reject the null hypothesis that there is no significant difference between the sample mean and the average burning time, and the expected burning time was 1000. Sample mean 867 is significant difference of 1000. Right? Because you rejected that there is no difference. You rejected. You rejected that there is no difference. There is no significant difference. Okay. The sample mean of 867, there is a significant difference between 867 right of sample mean and the 1000 burning time. Expected time. So what's the conclusion? Yes, the sample mean of 867 is significantly lower than the expected 1000. So what's the other way you can tell the same thing as well? You can say that this sample couldn't have come from a population where the burning time is 1000 hours. Right? A sample like any burning time is 1000 population. Again, there is significant difference. It cannot come from a population where the burning time is 1000 hours. Significant difference, no problem. But it cannot come from a population where the burning time is 1000 hours. So in that case, what's your conclusion related to the bulbs? The bulbs will not significantly lower than the expected standard of 1000 hours. So the entire log is rejected. That's how they do testing at quality, right? Quality testing. Testing quality test करना होता है. Carbon करना, benchmark करना, t-test करना, एक significant difference है. Significant difference ना, reject. Okay, हमारे तो उल्टा difference है. उदाहरण for example, the average burning time of the sample was 1500. After 1500, and it's let's say significant difference from the benchmark of 1000. I would repeat the whole. No, you will be very well accept the whole because the sample average burning time is well above the expected 1000. So it's even beyond point, beyond the expected. But here, unfortunately, 867 is less than 1000. Sample average burning time here. Hours एक Galle. Up to एक दाहरण सापेक्ष वन sample testing කියන මොකද? ඒක 1000ට සාපේක්ෂව significantly පන්න හැටි. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ අපසේ මේ bulk 10 මොන විදිහවත් 1000 burning time කියන population එක විදියට. This sample cannot come from a population. What it means is this sample cannot come from a population where the burning time is 1000 hours. මේ sample bulk 10 එන්නේ විදියක් නෑ මේ කියන විදිහට. මේ sample one sample testing significantly lower කියන නිසා මේ bulk 10 එන්නේ විදියක් නෑ. Burning time is 1000 වල population. ඒ අනුව අර 2000 bulk එක substantial. ඒක 1000 ඉන්නවා. Sample එක. Based on sample, the population burning time cannot be 1000. Well below that. That takes to reject the entire. To reject the entire. lot of bulbs. 2000 bulbs is stop scanning. So that's what I had given here. We reject the null hypothesis that the bulbs were drawn from a population in which the average life is 1000 hours. That's the expected life dwelling time. This difference between the sample mean 867 and the expected mean of population 1000 is so different that it is unlikely that our sample could have been brought from a population where the average lifetime is 1000 hours. In other words, the 2000 bulbs manufactured are substantial. Keep. Bad point. Right. This is how you do quality testing by customs, by SLAs, and other places. They are quality testing done. Right. You take a population, right, and you take a sample out of that, and you see whether the sample average is significantly different from the expected population average. The scan. Here it was 1000 hours. Since it was less than 1000 hours, you reject part. The null hypothesis that there is no difference. Meaning, since it was below 1000, the entire lot denoted as subscan. Clear? Is it clear? Subscan. Right. So we have now discussed and finished all three types of t-tests. What are the three tests that we discussed? Dependent sample t-test, paired sample t-test, or the what? Also known as the dependent sample t-test as well as one sample t-test. Always what we did was we compared two things. Independent sample t-test we compared two independent rows. Paired sample t-test we compare, yes, it's paired, but two characteristics. Mathematics, English. Then, in one sample t-test, yes, indeed it was one sample, but we compare that with a benchmark. Two things. So here we discussed how to perform these three types of tests. These are all what? T-tests. Because they were t-tests. Comparatively. Any questions? Right. Now let's come into one way around. Comparing more than two groups. 3 plus 2. Please take down one way and what? Well, first let's take comparing more than 2. More than 3 plus. Comparing more than 2. Comparing more than 2. More than 2 plus. Comparing more than 2. Comparing more than 2. Three plus. Now, if you want to compare more than 2 groups, what we do is one-way analysis. By the way, ANO stands what? It's an abbreviation. So stands what? Analysis of variance. Here given that you can see ANOVA is analysis of variance. ANOVA. Analysis of variance. ANOVA. Okay, one way ANOVA means you are taking one characteristics and comparing more than 2 groups. Right. ANOVA, one way. Let's say how to perform one way. Let's see how caffeine impacts productivity. Does caffeine impact productivity? When you drink coffee, are you more productive? The consequences sometimes is controlled. too much anything is completely. Anything and everything moderation is good, but again, here what they are trying to do is they are trying to see the caffeine and production. So they did an experiment. Now they are involving 3 groups. So they give coffee, one with 0 milligram of caffeine. That's called decaffeinated coffee. Decaffeinated means it looks coffee, tastes coffee, everything is coffee, but caffeine is not there. Right? I saw decaffeinated beer, not decaffeinated. 0 alcohol beer. All, due respect for the people who consume that shit. I don't know. It smells and it looks this, but again, people drink it. Like, ඒක alcohol time කරලා පස්සේ මොකද මොනවද? But that's my personal perception. When I was in Japan, then I have never consumed alcohol in my life, and I've never consumed as well till I do, right? So, but my friends were consuming everything, right? Not drugs, but again, they were consuming beer. They know that I don't consume. Like, for any reason, I won't consume, right? So then, and there was no any restrictions, no one was looking, but I won't consume that. I had better resolution that I will not walk as well as not consume this any kind of alcoholic beverage. So my friends, my Japanese friends, as well as my professor knew that in Japan, but they drink a lot, of course. That's their part of their part. They know very well I'm not drinking. Then I graduated with high standing, and they wanted to celebrate. So they took me to a grand restaurant, and now they are celebrating. But now the problem is that they need to celebrate, and they need to give me also at least a beer. So the suggestion was, what? 0 alcohol beer. Only 0. They got one. This really smelled this urine. I don't know that you. Then zero alcohol. I don't know that you. So same thing here. I never consumed that, even despite there was peer pressure, as well as pressure coming from the top. I don't know. I have to maintain my quality, and I have made certain promises, and which I never break. That's one of them. Certain policies are there, we cannot break, right? Even no one is looking at what's ethics, by the way. Ethics is doing the right thing, not necessarily doing the right thing when no one is watching. Right? People do the right thing when all are watching, but ethics means doing the right thing when no one is watching. So there were no my parents, no one. They are all Japanese friends and my folks. And they were in fact encouraging me to have it, but I don't know that. So likewise, now here this decaffeinated alcohol, this decaffeinated what? Coffee. In decaffeinated coffee, you have 0 milligram. So here you can see there are 3 groups that are there: 0 milligram caffeine, then coffee with 10 milligram, and coffee with 20 milligram. These are 3 groups, 3 independent groups. They were then given this caffeine and their productivity levels are measured. Right? So in the first group, how many employees were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 employees. Their productivity level per 1 hour was measured. The first employee produced 2 items, 3 items, then the next employee 3 items, 1 item, then the next employee 4 items, and the next one 2 items. So likewise, these were the items that were produced, right, per 1 hour. Then the next group was completely independent, and they were given 10 milligram beverage, and their productive levels were measured. 1 item, 2 items, 3 items, 1 item, and go. Then the 20 milligram group was given 20 milligram caffeine and double dosed, right? 10 milligram, 20 milligram. So this group produced that amount of items per 1 hour. So that's the production of these 3. Now what we need to see is whether the average production of these 3 groups are different from each other. Right? That's what it is. Now here you can see if there were 2 groups, what's the test that you would have done? Group test. Independence of the team. 2 independent. But now there are more than 2 groups. In that case, you can do several independence of the teams, but not that, but that's not an issue. If there are 4 groups, 5 groups, 6 groups, see the number of permutations and combinations that you have. Becomes exponential and you have to compare a lot, which is not perfect. So what you can do is you can perform a one-way analysis. A one-way analysis. Let's see how to perform the one-way analysis. Because it's more than 2 groups. One-way. Right. When you have more than 2 groups, please perform a one-way analysis. Right. Again, how many steps are there? In test of differences, I always was telling what? There are 4 steps. What are the 4 steps? Four steps here. Right? 4 steps. What are the 4 steps? Establish the null hypothesis. Then decision criteria. Establish decision criteria. So what did establish and always say? Then number 3, perform the one-way analysis using state. Number 4, what's that? Simple process. Right? So what's the null hypothesis? Can you suggest me what's the null hypothesis? That's not motive. The other thing here, what's the null hypothesis? What's the null hypothesis? No difference. No difference. No difference. Among then between and they got groups they got. Now it's more than 2 groups, then you have this. There is no difference among, there is no significant difference among the 3 groups in terms of their productivity. Productivity compounded, difference they are net. There is no difference. There is no significant difference among the 3 groups in terms of their productivity level. Productivity level is compounded, difference they are net. Significant difference there. So I have given that thing. You are not to leave it. There is no significant difference among the 3 groups. 3 groups we got 0 milligram, 10 milligram, and 20 milligram caffeine. Right? And they are productive. Then establish the decision criteria. Decision criteria. If the sig value or the p value is less than 0.05, reject that. Reject the number. That was the decision criteria that we have throughout. There's no difference. The decision criteria is always the same. Sig value is 0.05. Reject. Then step number 3. What's step number 3? That's also it. Use data and perform what? And estimate the sig value. Estimate the p value equal to 0. Right. Then step number 4, conclude. 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 And let's see how to do that. Okay. To do this, please download the relevant file. Going download caffeine and productivity file. I downloaded caffeine and productivity file and I'm going to open it. and seeing browse the file. Here, serial number is there. Productivity is there. And groups are there. 0, 10 and 20 milligram के लिए groups को रखते हैं. एक column में एक groups डाल दिए. Productivity का column में एक. To what? Base structure का value because हमारे लिए important. This structure is similar to what? What is structure is similar? Is it similar to the one sample file structure? One sample file structure is someone. Independent sample file structure is someone. The paired sample file structure is someone. What is similar? The structure is similar to what? One sample, independent sample, or paired sample. Independent sample. And remember, errors were in one column, and the two groups were with training and without training was in other column. And remember, so this is quite similar. This is quite similar. Okay, just a side note. Right. Now let's see how to perform the hardware analysis. To do that, go to statistics. Now don't go to summaries, tables, and cases. Go to statistics. Linear models and related. Go to the second one. These are the step number 3. Okay, step number 3. Statistic, linear models and related. ANOVA, MANOVA. Then go to one way. Okay, let me show you. Statistics, linear models and related. ANOVA, MANOVA. That is one way. So now here. One way. Right? So we select one way. Okay. Now what's the response variable? Response variable is the productivity. What you want to test. The factor variable is the grouping variable. The grouping variable is the groups. 0, 10 and 20 milligram grouping variable. And also don't forget to say produce summary table. Don't forget to put this tick. Response variable is product. Factor variable is groups. And produce summary tables. Right. Now, after you take this, produce summary tables. Now, let's see. So you see, 0 milligram group, their productivity level was per hour of 2.4 units. 0 milligram group produced 2.4 units. 2.4 units only. The 10 milligram group produced 1.8 units. The 20 milligram group produced 4.33 on average per one. The average, there are 5, 6 employees. So we added that and divided by 5. 5 and 6. Then you get this value. Now, is there a significant difference? Don't know. You can see there are differences. But then it says here the probability value. But 0.0006. So this is the answer for step 3. Take the mic, step 3 is answer. Step 3 is 0.0006. Is this value less than 0.05? Yes. Well below 0.05. So in that case, what's your conclusion? Reject that. Reject that. There is no difference. That means what? That is it. So conclusion should be overall. We don't know what is different from what. Overall, it says there is a difference. One group but again it says overall there is a difference. So that's why I have given a conclusion like this. You can see 0.006. So I have told all that. Conclusion. Since the estimated p value is less than 0.05, that means 0.0006 is less than 0.05. The last is that there is no difference in the group in terms of productivity is rejected on an overall basis. Please take it down on an overall basis. ANOVA can overall basis difference what it says is overall basis there is difference. But it doesn't say what groups are different from each other. It doesn't say what groups are exactly different from each other. It doesn't say. Right? It doesn't say what groups are different from each other. What it says is an overall basis. 51. Overall basis 50. But it doesn't say what groups are different from what. That creates a problem. Now, if you want to know exactly what groups are different from what, right? Individual group difference. This is one of the taking one now. There are several comparisons here. Comparisons are you can do 3 comparisons. 0 to 10, 0 to 10, then 10 to 10, and 0 and 10. Likewise, we have several comparisons. This that was told. So there are 3 groups. So likewise, you might need to do several comparisons. To check whether each group is different from other, you need to perform an analysis called post-stochastic. Right? So that's what is called post-stochastic. So I have given a note for that. For the note, one way analysis indicates whether difference exists among the groups on an overall basis. Overall basis difference. However, it did not include whether there are differences between the groups on a separate basis. Separate basis again, groups do not be there can be comparisons on one side. To check that whether there are differences, we have performed something called post-stochastic. Post-stochastic, we have performed post-stochastic. And we have to see whether the groups are different from each other. That's called post-stochastic. So today I teach you one, and after that we'll discuss the other one later. But I'm going to teach you a post-stochastic called one-parametric post-stochastic. There are different kinds of analysis. Next week probably I'll teach you the next one. That's Yuki's post-stochastic. But this week I'm going to teach you one-parametric post-stochastic. Please write down one-parametric post-stochastic. Okay. What do you give? Given 1 parent post of 1 parent. One parent. 1 parent is post of cancer. Now let's see what it is. 1 parent. Let's see how to do 1 parent is post of cancer. Very simple. You go to Stata. I'm going to teach you how to do 1 parent is post of cancer. Do the same path. Statistics. Linear bonds are related. ANOVA. Then go to one way ANOVA. Right? One way ANOVA. Same path. Same path. One way ANOVA. Right? One way ANOVA. And here you can see one pair is there. There is one pair in. One pair in. One pair. Others are as the same. Product is being selected, groups are selected, one pair. And you have to press OK. Now you can see here, in addition to the normal tables that we had, here you can see a nice table is given at the end. Antivar table at the end. Here what it says is, it compares 0 milligram group with 10 milligram. 0 milligram and 10 milligram. So actually what it does is 10 milligram and 0 milligram. You can see 10 milligram was what? 1.8 and 0 milligram group was 2.4. So 1.9, 2.4 is minus 0.6. The difference in productivity. Productivity difference is minus 0.6. Then it says whether the difference is significant or not. So is the difference significant? The significant level is 0.0849. Is it significant? No. It's above 0.05. So the conclusion is 10 milligram group and 0 milligram group has no significant difference. Taken separate. Separate basis overall scale. Now make group then you can see again the 20 milligram group had 4.33 the productivity and 0 milligram had 2.4. So the difference is 1.93. 20 milligram and 0 milligram, right? So between 2.4 and 4.33. What about that? When you compare 20 milligram and 0 milligram group, what's the significant level? 0.007. Is it significant difference? Yes. So your conclusion is 20 and 0 milligram groups are significantly different. 20 and 0 milligram groups are significantly different. How about the next one? 10 and 20. 20 and 10. The difference is 2.5. What's the significant level? 0.001. Is it significant difference? Yes. It's also less than 0.05. So your conclusion is that is also those two combinations are also significantly different. Right? So the 20 milligram and 10 milligram group are also significantly different. So to see you see 0 milligram, 10 milligram group, and 20 milligram group, caffeine productive level. 0 and 10, is it different? 0 and 10? No. Not significantly different. About 10 and 20. Is this different? About 0 and 20. Is it significantly different? But 10 and 20, 10 and 0 and 10 is not significant. That's the final. So that's the post-hoc analysis with the post-hoc analysis. Okay. Next day I'll teach you there's another post-hoc analysis called Q-keys post-hoc analysis. We'll discuss that next week. Right. Now time has come to the attendance, isn't it? Attendance down. Good. That's the point. Okay, let's take attendance. So please practice these. Exam these testable questions. We could not do a class test for a long time. Maybe next week we can do small class test as well. अगर करोगे तो कोई class test करो. We'll see. Take it, please.